In this world, there are only a handful of inevitabilities. Death, taxes, somehow getting your fast food order taken wrong at a drive-thru, and short-stack girlies being stunner classes in Zenless Zone Zero. Yet, Norma is not like the other girls. Yeah, you have someone who knows Kung Fu, and another one who also knows Kung Fu, and another one that wields a mace like nunchucks. This one is special. With the smell of good old grease and American spirit, Norma uses one of God's given rights, the Great Second Amendment, to lay the beat down on the opposition. Today, we're going to be breaking down Norma's kit, how she's able to stun and do so much damage, her builds and teams so that you're equipped to pilot one of Zenless's most destructive entities. In all honesty, Norma is pretty normal when it comes to her role as a stunner. Do some abilities, stack some stacks, and launch heavy ballistic missiles and spray ethereals with lead straight from the motherland. But there are a few fun mechanics Norma brings to the table to help boost your team and her own damage. Let's start the kit breakdown by introducing Norma's stacking gimmick, the preheated chamber. Now, this bar will continuously stack passively, yet can gain bursts of points through her abilities on the field, as well as from her hat, which can be active on and off field. This little top hat companion will help to stack preheated chamber when Norma is off field, and can be seen building up stacks through the transparent bar, which indicates the potential points that you'll gain once Norma returns on the field, like so. As you can see, her points are now at her threshold. Once you reach this threshold, you can now hold down the basic to assist backwards in the lineup and trigger that character's chain attack. A pretty nifty ability, but not as powerful as a dial-in, but frequent enough to chip in a ton of damage throughout the fight. And just to clarify, you can still actually send out the hat, and it's actually preferred at the start of the fight to get your points going by just holding down the basic. But if you do have enough points, you will perform what is called the assist to chain and perform that previous chain attack, and also be sending out the hat, so you don't have to re-send out the hat. You can just keep doing the chain attack and building up those points from there on. But let's talk about some of her firepower that's going to be able to contribute towards her chamber stacks. First is her bread and butter, the EX Special. This is another one of Norma's biggest attacks, and it can come in two forms. Let's start with the regular EX Special called the Enna Barrage. This attack costs 40 initial energy and will allow Norma to summon turrets out of the ground like Diglets and start blasting enemies with a homing barrage of pellets and missiles. Not only that, there are a few extra abilities tacked onto this skill. First is the status called the Enna Barrage State, and when this is active, you will summon 2 extra Enna turrets to join you as passive damage. Yet, for this duration of which you're channeling the EX Special, your main turret and the 2 new extra turrets can fire massive rounds of missiles. And you can actually extend the timer of this skill by up to 2 seconds, each second costing 20 extra points for a total attack duration of just around 3 seconds. The daze that comes from this ability is actually quite nuts. And check it, I'm not even running an Impact 6 here. That's right, we'll be going over how to get her daze potential to max in the build guide portion, so stay tuned for that. Then there's another property specifically tied to the missiles being fired from the EX Special. When you are in or out of stun will determine what missiles you fire from any of your EX Specials. First is the armor-piercing warheads that deal more daze than the other, yet less damage. We'll call this the daze missiles. The other missile type is called the high explosive warhead, and these will conversely do more damage, which we're going to call the damage missiles. We'll get to a bit more on why these are so relevant soon, as well as revisit them in the combat portion. Outside of her defensive assist, which provides some cheeky daze, let's just go over some other lesser abilities that you won't be naturally using. Norma's dodge, her basic 4-string, as well as her regular special that technically can be used as a heavy in niche situations. Following her out of stun attacks, let's actually start to go over now how Norma is going to contribute to the follow-up to stun and actually in stun attacks. First is her ultimate, the Doctrine of Superior Firepower. Norma will hold down the button and input the nuclear codes to then launch the cutest warhead towards anything that moves and hit us with the Tony Stark. This ability not only has amazing damage, but can contribute 1200 days, which is absurd. For reference, Dylan's ult is only 1150, so we're getting 50% more oomph with our even tinier munchkin here. Then let's get to In Stun, where we'll begin this combo with Norma's additional passive ability, the Advantage in Numbers. This ability, when pairing Norma up with Rupture, attack agents, or those of the same faction, she'll gain a stack of Tech Divide that can go up to 10 anytime herself or one of her Bamboo constructs hits an enemy. Each stack provides a 3% stun damage multiplier for a total of 30% damage bonus. And that's not all, as if the enemy has Tech Divide status going into stun, their stun duration is increased by 2 seconds. Lastly, when Anon Barrage is active, Norma's own attack increases by up to 870 at level 60 and team-wide damage buff by 20%. So already going into stun, we have a slew of bonuses at our disposal, but how else does Norma contribute? Well, you might just use Norma's chain attack to deal some pretty gnarly damage, as well as her second enhanced EX special ability called the Explosive Experiment. Technically, we saw this with the Enod turrets earlier when Norma was able to trigger the assist to chain. This will enhance the rate of fire for 8 seconds with the extra Enod turrets and is triggered when you consume preheated chamber and when you stun enemies. Yet recall during our EX special explanation, we talked about 2 different types of missiles. They will also apply here with the Explosive Experiment enhanced turrets. So if you are out of stun and trigger the chain attack via the preheated chamber bar, you will get the stun missiles. Then if you were to trigger stun or just have the assist to chain during the stun window, you would get high explosive warheads, which are again the damage missiles. So you can see how we're going to want to set up one charge of the chamber bar for the stun itself. And with such knowledge of Norma's kit comes the power to enact Bamboo violence. Let's show you her on the battlefield with her new firepower. So here we are starting out building Daze with our assists and EX special. Remember, most of the missiles being fired out here are just the Daze missiles so far. Then ideally we'd start stun or end stun with Norma's ult because it has great Daze potential. Then get the chain attacks. Since we're using Evelyn here, we can finish up the rainbow chains and initiate another Norma proc chain back to Eve, or whichever resources we have left to get in chain 5 or 6. If you would like a further breakdown on the Eve and Norma combos, make sure to drop by our Twitch and YouTube live streams, as we'll actually be testing Norma out live. So I want you guys to stay tapped in with our live streams. Make sure to head over there and hit the follow. Yet outside of the complex missile description, Norma actually is quite the simple character to use, and her general philosophy around stunning is pretty on par with how other stunners operate. Yet, the exterior can often be misleading, as Norma is not built like any stunner we've used before. Let's quickly head over to the build portion to show you how we're kitting out Norma. Now, in the past, we've had units like Trigger and Dylan who've scaled with crit rate. Norma is ready to join the ranks. With Norma's passive, the Precise Guidance, she'll convert crit rate above 50% into a total 40% daze bonus for her specials and ult. As well, she has a very cheeky ability to convert sheer force that's given to her to turn it into attack, essentially allowing her to gain damage potential when paired in with Rupture teams, a very welcome conversion. Yet, crit rate is not going to be the all be all. Get it? And there's actually another stat that we'll be wanting to invest into, and that's her energy regen. See, the whole shtick around Norma is that she wants to have a steady flow of her EX special to be able to hold down her EX specials to launch more missiles. It's not mandatory to hold down the EX special, but it certainly adds more daze potential. So let's take a look firstly at the W engines, and particularly her pretty insane W engine called Chief Sidekick. This W engine feeds a strong 24% crit rate alongside a scalable 30 points to impact, 50% fire res ignore, and an extra 0.4 energy regen right off the bat. Then when you launch an EX special, all agent damage will increase by a scalable 12.5% for 30 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. So utilizing 2 EX specials before your full stun window would be ideal. As you can see, this W engine option grants it all. Extra daze potential through crit rate conversion, which also conveniently feeds into the King of the Summit set. More on that in just a bit. Extra impact, energy regen, fire res, team damage bonus. This W engine seems like it can do it all. But how do the other options compare? Well, in all honesty, quite well. Firstly, let's take a look at the signature many veterans are looking at, the Hellfire's gear. This standard option is amazing for a character like Norma, providing a bit of impact alongside the energy regen that we talked about earlier, and a burst of day's potential. So for the stunning aspects of Norma, we've got it covered. However, as we go down the list here, you're going to see options that range from providing crit to some energy, maybe even some other actually provide buffs like Roaring Furnace. However, not all of these options provide exactly what Norma would require for her to reach even close to overall potential that the signature provides. Now, does that mean it's signature or bust? No, my friend. That just means that we're going to have to focus clearly on prioritizing certain aspects of her build in order to make sure that her first primary job as a stunner is filled. So that means crit rate options are more than likely the priority stat we're going to want to build here, followed by days or impact increases, then followed by energy regen. After, it's fair game to whatever extracurriculars you want to add to your Normiss to give her the best team contribution. Then let's get to drives, which are a lot clear-cut. Since no new stun discs have been introduced, the winner of the 4-set sweepstakes has to be the king of the summit. Linking up with the crit rate investments to also provide crit damage bonuses to the team, and it's just the best performing drive disc for conventional stunners who want to support crit-based DPS units. We'll follow that by introducing a few various options in the 2-slot. If you need more crit rate, which should almost always be the case, you'll rock the 2-set Woodpecker for its crit bonus. Then, if you do manage to have enough, or you're running an alternate crit rate option, but would like some more energy, run Moonlight or any of the other energy regen based 2-set bonuses. And after that, if you are hard pressed for any of the builds above, you can go Impact with Shockstar Disco, but Impact alone can't compare to what crit rate and energy provide our vertically challenged Bamboo Researcher. So try to prioritize crit rate again as much as you can till you reach 100% net. And to follow through with the build, the main stats are going to be crit rate in the 4, attack at the 5, or just fire or pen will do you well, and then energy regen at 6. For your initial energy, you'll want anything close to 2.0. As with the SIG, it'll bring you right above that threshold. If you'd like a one-stop shop to revisit all this info and to give you the best breakdown of how to build Norma and other ZZZ characters, look no further than our infographic guide here. I post these on X, Discord, Instagram, and YouTube posts, so make sure to check out all of those socials for more resources. And now, let's get ready to rumble! As Norma is ready to pair herself up with every single attacker and rupture unit in sight. Firstly, the attackers, with their ability to grant crit damage, damage bonuses, and provide chains to characters like Hugo, Ellenjo, and especially Evelyn, Norma becomes the second best paired stunner for more attackers outside niche cases with Trigger and Lighter. Pairing up Norma with strong on-field units, as she doesn't take on too much time on field and can blend in seamlessly with many of your conventional main DPS units that we know and love. And don't forget, she's also able to pair up with Seagreed coming to the fold in 3.1, as she's been announced as an ice attacker. So if you're thinking of pulling on our new Uma Musume and don't yet have a new stunner, Norma is the clear premier option. However, one surprising attacker that I've loved to see Norma paired with is actually our new free S-rank unit, Pyrois. And you would think Dai Lin would be the better pair here, just because Dai Lin is actually going to be creating a new ult instance for Pyros. That's actually not the case. With Norma's bonuses paired with the amount of damage that she provides, the team actually can outperform Pyro's Dai Lin pairings, which is incredible to see. Then let's head over to the other side of the pond and cover some more Rupture teams. And would you look at that, Norma fits in pretty well with these units too. And you can't forget about her ability to convert sheer force back into attack, thus allowing her to contribute higher damage like if she was on a conventional attacker team with attack buffs. This honestly is a strong change because Norma doesn't necessarily provide an over 70% crit damage buff like a Jufu can, but by golly does she make it up by adding thousands and even millions of damage to the dome of your enemies courtesy of her EX specials and ultimate. As we've been shuffling through the showcases here, teams like Starlight Billy, Yidhari, Yishen, and Banya will also benefit from her versatile playstyle. And yes, Minato too. In summary, Norma is a 1.5 version of Jufufu with the ability to proc an extra chain attack. Then being compared to an M0W1, Norma definitely takes the cake, yet can fall a bit behind if we're talking budget, because Jufu's buffs are more innate to her core, and Norma would lose out on a bunch of buffing and damage potential without her amazing signature, so take that into account. But one way that we can compensate or just even add more firepower to the firecracker is by virtue of Mindscapes. Let's quickly break these down to see if her extra abilities are worth your doubloons. The M1 called Visionary Extremism provides a duration buff to the Enna Barrage, specifically for the Explosive Experiment attack, which is capped at 8 seconds at base. It instead is extended by 4 extra seconds, adding in more extra damage for that extended period. And when the missiles from any of the EX special skills hits an enemy, their all attribute res is decreased by 15% for 15 seconds. Even though 15 seconds is shorter than other res down Mindscapes, keep in mind this ability is all but guaranteed anytime you bring out Norma for anything, making it easy to proc back up, so it should be no problemo to have a 100% uptime on this debuff. This Mindscape per its cost is probably the best Mindscape we have on this list. I'm not gonna lie, it's simple, effective, and the first Mindscape on the list. However, the second one gives a few more bonuses. The Axiom of Universal Unity grants a stun damage multiplier buff towards the additional ability of Tech Divide, this number increasing to 6% versus its initial 3%, essentially doubling the bonus from 30 to 60% stun damage multiplier, putting her in line with some of the better stun damage bonuses in the game. Then we also get a utility bonus whenever Norma uses her hat trick basic attack, the hold basic to create the assist to chain. She gains 25 energy. Not a bad Mindscape, yet again costing another $100 for this one seems a bit steep. Then the M3 and M5 are skill increases. As a reminder, those are not only helping out with damage, but daze potential as well, making Norma a potentially stronger stunner threat. The M4 is but a cheeky decibel refund ability that after any time you use the chamber stacks to trigger a chain, you will gift Norma and the corresponding unit 200 decibels. And lastly, the M6. If you're willing to venture this far, you can gift Norma the ability of absolute firepower, as when any squad mate stuns an enemy, Norma will continuously bombard random enemies on the field for 6 seconds, dealing 200% of attack as ult fire damage. And the daze inflicted by your daze missiles increases by 30%, the damage by your damage missiles by 30% as well. Overall, a nice potency increase for Norma, but doesn't really change the way that you pilot her, so it's not worth any of my extra polychromes in the face of our Angel Bride and Geeky Haunts. And in my experience has not changed the stun breakpoints of most of the boss fights I've encountered. Well, that's until you get to the M6 or 5, but who's going there? And that will be our full early access overview guide for Norma. If you have any more burning questions, please leave them down below and let me know if you're pulling for Absolute Cinema. And make sure to join us over on our Twitch and YouTube live streams for more fun community events, collabs, and our new $100 Norma monochrome giveaway. That's right. Come over and make sure to grab your raffle tickets over on the live streams. With that, it's your boy Josh. Make sure to click on one of these videos because YouTube thinks you'll like it. And we'll see you in the next one.